All right, take a look at temperatures that you can expect for today and tomorrow, April 20th and April 21st. For the greater Dixie area, highs 85 and lows 56 today. And for Sunday, highs 76 and lows 52. For Zion National Park today, highs 84 and lows 53. And for Sunday, highs 74 and lows 47. And for Bryan Hill Village today, highs 45 and lows 27. And for Sunday, highs 36 and lows 23. For Radio Dixie and Radio St. George, this is Dennis Mattinson, your weather and atmospheric forecaster.
I use paper bags.
I pedal a bicycle.
I recycle.
Many people like to think of themselves as green.
I bought a new house and it had a concrete backyard and I had the concrete torn out.
But how much are we really willing to give up?
I wouldn't give up flying.
I'm Mike and Scott. Join me for Shades of Green, an Earth Day special. We'll explore how our choices, big and small, impact the environment.
The Pulse, Saturday mornings at 11 on Radio St. George 100.3. And now this health tip from Stapley Pharmacy.
Sore throats stink. Often when a college student gets a sore throat, they reach for the over-the-counter, sugary, dreadful tasting cough drop in an often unsuccessful attempt to relieve that awful, scratchy feeling. All the while, you are missing your classes. Instead, how about a flavored lollipop that contains a numbing agent that blocks the pain signals to your brain? It's perfect for post-tonsillectomy or oral surgery and can even help with pain from cankers and herpes breakouts. Sore throat lollipops won't take the place of an antibiotic if you're sick, but will help with your pain. These lollipops must be prescribed by a physician, but your on-campus health center is familiar with this product. All you have to do is ask your provider for a prescription. If you have questions, talk to your favorite pharmacist, and remember, your pharmacist is your most accessible medical professional. Stapley Pharmacy has your prescription for success.
The St. George Recreation Center is full of activities for you and your family, including youth, t-ball, baseball, and softball. Registration for those is now open until April 22nd.
You're killing me, Smalls.
For more information, go to sgcityrec.org. The City of St. George is a proud sponsor of Radio Dixie 91.3.
Hurry up, batter. It's gonna be a short game and I gotta get home for lunch.
Radio Dixie and Radio St. George would like to thank AWI Networks. AWI has gone above and beyond in helping the DSU radio stations stay on the air. AWI provides high-speed internet service, dedicated wireless fiber, and digital phone services. AWINetworks.com.
No batteries included. It's Toy Talk with me, Dr. Tasha Toy. I invite friends and community members in for probative interviews about relationships, self-care, and so much more. Join me for Toy Talk.
Toy Talk, Wednesdays at 3:30 on Radio St. George 100.3 FM.
Listen on your mobile device with the TuneIn app. Search for Radio St. George.
Good morning and welcome to KDXI St. George, Radio St. George at 100.3 FM. It's our pleasure to present to you The Garden Show with Artie and Woody. It's time to find out, how does your garden grow? Here are your hosts for The Garden Show, Artie and Woody.
Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the Home and Garden Show with Woody and Artie.
It is, and we're here.
Yeah, it's the big Easter edition.
It is. You know, I was a little bit frightened this morning.
Why is that?
Well, I got up and there was a full moon.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I realized that's why those women were banging on my window all night.
Is that why?
Yeah, and they all want your autograph.
Oh, they do. They want our autographs. We're super famous.
And they want them free. You know, they don't want to pay. If they pay, we'd give them one.
How much would you charge for yours?
Oh, probably 40 cents.
Yeah. I'm thinking mine would be there.
$50.
No. Yeah, $50, $100.
Yeah.
Yep. We have quite a big home and garden show following.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of,
in fact, Good
fans.
Morning America called and made an offer this week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but I turned them down. You know, I thought to myself, why not play hard to get?
You should do that.
You know, I'm not going to go for the first offer. What's $10,000?
They offered you $10,000?
Yeah, to appear.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, well, actually, it was It was for you to appear, and I was to be your manager.
Oh. All right.
So-
Well, folks, it's the Home and Garden Show. You can email us at any time. We'd love to answer email questions. We've done that in the past.
Or you can call us.
Yeah. So email us. It's radiostgeorge@gmail.com. That's Radio St. George, ST. That's Radio ST George @gmail.com. Or call us. It's 435-879-4100. And we have actually a caller. This is exciting. Hi, you are on the air. It's Radio St. George 100.3.
Artie?
Oh, hi.
Hi. You're on Facebook, but you're not on the radio. I can't hear you.
Really?
Really?
Oh, my goodness. Why is that?
I don't know, but I love your show, so...
Oh, my goodness. Why is that? That's weird. Well, this is...
You mean we're not on the air?
This is crazy.
You're not on the radio, but you're on Facebook, right?
What do you hear on the radio?
You just said, really?
Let's see. Looks like I have no idea.
Okay.
I'll figure out how to fix that.
I can't help you, Artie.
I don't know what to do.
You're the guy on the control side. I'm just over here on the dummy side.
I don't know about that.
Well, Artie, I have a crush on you, and you really need
She wants a recipe.
I'm getting in my car and coming down right now.
Well, this is embarrassing.
But I need to hear you on the radio, or I can't leave in my car.
We better get it fixed. Thanks for calling.
You're welcome.
That was awesome. All right. Thanks for calling. That was great. We love phone calls.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I better figure out how to turn the radio station on.
Yeah.
I
Good
have
idea.
no idea. So maybe
I
we'll
can see us on Facebook.
Yeah, we're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube.
But not the radio.
Yeah.
And that's a bad thing.
I'm
since
thinking we should
We're a radio station.
Exactly. I'm thinking we should keep going.
Okay.
So go ahead and talk, I'll try to figure something out.
All right. Good deal. We're going to start out today talking about soil. In St. George, there's a particular problem with the soil. And a lot of areas, they worry about soil having too much acid. Where you get a lot of acid is when you get into areas where there's a lot of organic nutrients in the soil. As an example would be, forest area and that type of thing where there's a lot of pine needles dropping and different debris dropping and becoming part of the soil. But as far as having too much acid, we don't have that problem down here. Our problem down here is too much alkaline. It's by far way too alkaline, and that's a problem with what the term they use is salts. And alkaline makes it really difficult for plants to be able to do well. Out in Bloomington, where I live, we had the soil tested, and it's the extension agent said it was supposed to be around a 2 on a scale of 1 to 15, and we were a 14.
Who does those tests?
The Utah State Extension Service.
Now, is there a fee involved with that, or?
I think there is, but it's just a small fee to cover their cost, like $15-20.
Oh, that's it. Just to test your soil.
And you can take a sample in, and they mail it up to Logan to the university, and they check it.
Oh,
and
okay.
Then
So Utah State is a part of that,
right? And the extension agent is on Tabernacle and 2nd East in that building.
That's what that is.
Yeah, he's downstairs in that building.
Okay.
And he'll send it in for you, and then you'll get a letter back, and it'll tell you what you need to do to your soil.
So knowing what kind of soil you have will help determine what's going to grow.
One of the symptoms when you have too much alkaline in your soil, your leaves on your plants will turn yellow, or at the edges they'll start to turn brown. The alkaline, when the water goes into the soil, the alkaline kind of grabs the nutrients and keeps it from going into the plant. So you get a deficiency in the plant.
So it rips the
good stuff,
the nutrients.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. And one of the things that can cause high alkaline, I don't know if you've ever been through the San Joaquin Valley. That was the breadbasket of America for 100 years.
Yeah.
And they irrigated so much on that California aqueduct.
Yeah.
They've irrigated so much and they fertilized so much that the soils turned white. When you drive through
that's
there.
why.
Yeah. And
I've
there's
seen that.
The runoff, they flood irrigate, and the water comes in, and as it goes through the soil, it leaves the salts. So as time goes by, it gets more and more and more alkaline.
Yeah.
And now, instead of growing produce and things in there, they're growing cotton because that's all they can grow in that alkaline
That's the only
soil.
thing that can work.
Yeah.
Huh?
So if you've got alkaline soil, and I'll bet you anything that you do, if you're in St. George, you have really two choices. And one is to haul topsoil in and cover it, or amend the soil that you have. And obviously, if you're going to haul topsoil in and cover it, the easiest way to do that is with grow boxes, because then it doesn't mix with the alkaline soil at all. But if you're going to amend it, then there's a process you can go through with alkaline, and you can lower the alkaline content of the soil by adding sulfur to it. You can buy bags of sulfur and mix it in with the soil, and at the same time I would mix in some perlite, which are these little small pieces of white. They look like white styrofoam that you get when you buy a plant from a florist, and they're mixed in with the soil, and they keep it the soil loose, and they keep the moisture in it when you water the soil. So let's say that you've got a garden that's 10 by 10 and you want to change it and make it more acid and less alkaline. You would get a bag of perlite and mix in with it, and at the same time a bag of sulfur and mix in with it, and that would take the pH down. I would also at that time mix in 3 or 4 bags of compost. Compost isn't going to change it immediately, but as the compost disintegrates and rots, and the nutrients are released into the soil, then it's going to help your soil. The ideal way for most plants, the ideal circumstances of the soil is to be just slightly acid. So the scale they have is like 1 to 12, and 7 is considered neutral. It's not acid or alkaline. And you want to be at about a 6.5 or a 6.2. And Artie, you can buy little test kits where you can test your own soil at the different garden centers and so on. Yeah. And there's types that you can buy where you take a container and you put the soil in it and you add the test information, the test fluid to it, and then depending on what color it turns, that tells you how alkaline or acid it is. And
so
then
it's like a pregnancy test.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, the rabbit dies. Why? And then they have meters that you just that are more expensive, and it has 2 prongs on it, and has a battery in the back and a meter, and you stick it in the dirt, and it gives you a reading.
Wow.
And that's really the fun kind that I'd like to do.
Yeah.
So the liquid, the ones with the little liquid test tube kind of thing, they're good for 3 or 4 tests, and then you have to buy another kit. So, but compost is one of your universal things you can do anytime that adds good stuff to your soil. I mean, you can't overdo compost. So compost, and another one that's really good is peat moss. It's a little more expensive, but peat moss is an acid-based material, and it holds the moisture into your soil, and it breaks down and puts organic matter into the soil. So either one of those is good. The problem really is, and I know this from experience with my garden, it takes years to amend soil. You'll do all that stuff and then go ahead and grow your garden, and then the next spring it's just about as bad as it was, and you start over again. The reason for that is that as you water, it takes and rinses the good stuff through the soil down to a level below the roots of the plants. It's like a sponge, and you pour water in the top, and pretty soon it comes out the bottom.
Yeah.
And so in reality, if you're looking for a long-term cure for that, you have the grow boxes and you have soil hauled in.
That's probably a faster approach to
it. It is, and it lasts.
Yeah.
And even with the grow boxes, as you water, it's going to drain the material through. So, that's why every 4 or 5 weeks you put some Miracle-Gro on it, or you put some compost in it, or, as you're so fond of mentioning all the time, steer manure.
Oh, I was going to ask about steer manure.
I know you love steer manure.
So when do you
the thing with
when do you incorporate steer manure?
Well, you can put steer manure in a vegetable garden, but number one, you have to be careful. You don't want it down by the roots of the plants.
Now, why is that?
Well, because it's too hot. It's got too much, too hot it'll kill the plant. So you put it on the surface. You take one of those little hand rakes and you rake it around.
Yeah.
And then you water. Do your regular watering, and as it washes through, it will feed your plant.
So just the surface only with the manure.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you dig it down in and put manure down by the roots of the plants, you'll be putting new plants in a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not good. So those are some of the things that you can do. And now like I said, I'm in Bloomington, and I know for sure that the soil out there is terribly alkaline. And I would think also the Dixie Downs area, the west side of St. George. The only place I can think of that would be different is the river bottom in Santa Clara has really good soil.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. And out in Washington Fields, it's a better soil in a lot of places.
See, that's where I'm at, and I try to dig, and it's just so
you've got
horrible.
You've got clay out there.
Oh, is that what that is?
And that's alkaline. It's alkaline, but you've got two problems. You've got the alkaline, plus you've got the clay, and so if you try to amend it, you've got to mix stuff with clay, which is really hard. And you've got to mix something with the clay to loosen it, which would be the perlite and sand.
Okay, so off the air we were talking about planting 3 plants in front of the house of my place, and so I'm thinking. So as far as soil is concerned, I'm going to dig those up and try to get through that clay and the rocks.
And I would over-excavate the hole, make it a little bigger.
Bigger than what you need.
And then I would put some of that topsoil you bought in there.
Okay.
I wouldn't put any fertilizer.
No fertilizer or anything.
Not until they get established a little bit.
Okay.
The roots have got to start to branch out and get into the native soil and so on. And then you can put some stuff like the Miracle-Gro on it.
Okay. Sounds good.
So... unless we have some more questions, which if we're not on the radio, we probably won't have.
Well, I emailed the boss,
and
and
he said good luck.
He hasn't called back.
So. Oh no!
But we're live on Facebook.
Yeah,
and we're on YouTube, so that's exciting.
Yeah, that is.
There's
excited.
lots of people checking us out on Facebook.
This may run our Good Morning America thing.
Though. Oh, our contract with Good Morning America.
Yeah. One other.
Oh, we have another phone call. Here we go.
Maybe that's the boss.
This is exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, you're on the air. It's Radio St. George.
It's me again.
Oh, hi.
You're on the radio now, so you're fine.
Oh, good.
Good deal.
I'll be over to your house with my binoculars later.
Oh,
Bye.
she's my stalker, my lawn chair lady next door.
Yeah. Okay.
That's good.
Thanks for your help.
Well, I don't know what I did. That's embarrassing.
Well, whatever you did, you
I
took
don't know
care
what's
of it.
going on.
Yeah. One other issue that I wanted to talk about again is to remind people that it's time to put the borer treatment on the trees. I mentioned it 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, you did.
But I really want to make sure that people are aware that, because if you don't do it in the spring, you can have borers before you think about it. And so if you value your trees, now Bayer has some really good products, and the one is the tree and shrub treatment, and it feeds the tree, which means it fertilizes it, the tree or shrub. Plus, it has a systemic poison that goes up the roots into the tree and kills the borers inside the tree. It'll also kill any insect that's on the tree.
Now, is that going to damage the fruit if it's a fruit tree?
If it's a fruit tree, you have to buy a different product. The Bayer is for ornamental stuff, not for where you have the fruit and things.
Okay.
But there is a product that does the same thing that's good for the fruit trees. I was in Star Nursery a week ago making an order, and a lady come up and asked me, and I went over to help her. They think I work there.
Really?
I'm standing there making an order, so they think I work there. And I went over, and there is a product that has a picture of the fruit trees and stuff on front, and it will work for that type of tree, and you can still eat the fruit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So just make sure you get the one you want. And the Bayer products, Bayer has, I don't know, it's been 2 years, 3 years since they went into the gardening business.
Oh, it's that recent. They haven't been around for...
Bayer aspirin.
Sure. But not...
And then all of a sudden they're into this other end of the business.
Wow.
And but their products that have come out have been first rate. And in coming weeks, I would like to maybe review or talk about some of their other products, if we can do that and try them and see what we recommend. But they're one of the top brands right off the start of things.
Now, you had me put that Bayer stuff on my lawn, I think, a year ago. Was it my lawn or? Oh no, it was my shrubs. I think that were dying.
Yeah.
And my rose bushes. That's what it was.
Yeah. And the rose bush is the one. I'm not sure why. I'm not a scientist, but you can treat a rose bush with like a spray, a hose end sprayer, and it'll kill the insects, the aphids that it comes in contact with. But the next day they'll be right back. But if you use a poison that's systemic that goes up through the plant, that's the way to treat them because they don't come back. So roses, for a long time, roses were the only thing that had that type of poison to use.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And now they've applied that principle to the trees and shrubs. And I remember a couple of years ago, I had, the June bugs that come in June, and they make that sound that keeps you up all night.
Yes, so that's what that is.
Yeah. And it was horrible around my house, and I happened to have some of this Bayer stuff, and I put it on one afternoon. You mix a couple of tablespoons in a 5-gallon bucket and pour water in it, and then you pour it around the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Next day, no June bugs. They're gone.
Done.
It is silent. There isn't a sound.
Really?
It was wonderful.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
I always wondered what the heck those things are. So.
Oh, yeah.
And they're everywhere.
And then they leave their little skeleton of their self on the tree after they hatch.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, they're just annoying. I hope everybody, there's a section in our book about compost, and some people make their own compost. I haven't gone into that myself, but usually if you have a fairly large yard, and I say that because compost is organic material that's rotting.
So
you're going to take this...
Like grass clippings?
Yeah,
or?
grass clippings and stuff from your table.
Really?
And all that, and you put it in this drum, and then you turn the drum every so often, and it turns over the compost. And when it gets to a certain level that's where it's degraded, and the chemical processes happen, then you put it on your garden.
Do you just lay it on the top, or do you dig it in? You mix it in. Okay.
Yeah, but I've always just gone and bought the bags of compost. They're not expensive. I think Walmart's got them for like $2.50 for a bag, and I just put them on top of my garden and take a hand shovel and turn them in.
Okay.
And turn the soil over, and so if you want to know about composting, there's a lot of information. Star has a lot of information. Most of the books do. If you buy a composter, there's different styles. There's barrels. There's all kinds of different shapes and sizes.
Or just make your own, I guess, right?
Well, yeah, you can just make
box it off in the corner.
Well, you don't even have to box it off. You can just pile it.
Oh, okay.
But the reason that it's nice to have a big yard is so you don't smell that stuff rotting.
Yeah. That's
because guess what? It stinks.
Well, I hoard cats, and my house smells anyway.
Yeah,
so.
well, you could probably do it inside your house, or you could put the cats in the compost.
Really?
Yeah. And it's a good way to get rid of some cats.
Oh no, we don't want to do that.
No, I know. Okay. The next section is a section on planting.
Okay.
And we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but let's talk about your shrubs you're going to buy today and plant. First of all, you excavate the hole.
Yeah, that's going to be a chore for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a sweaty mess after digging that thing out.
I think I'll bring the camera over and get you on that. But so you want to take the shrub that you bought out of the plastic pot that it's in and look at it, and you've got a root section that's a certain size. You want to make sure that the hole you're putting in is bigger than that root section. But the other thing you want to look for is a lot of the shrubs have been in those pots long enough that the roots grow to the edge of the pot.
Yeah.
And then they wrap around.
Guess what? We're going to take a break here.
Oh, we are?
Yep. Some more about wrapping around
Okay.
roots here in a moment.
Okay.
It's the Home and Garden Show on Radio Dixie 91.3. Stay with us.
In farm country, a battle is heating up over a controversial chemical used in soybean fields.
The state of Arkansas said they're not going to protect me, so I'm going to protect myself.
Farmers are asking where the line is between doing what's good for business and being a good neighbor.
There's a very, very good chance that somebody's going to wind up dead over this.
On the next Reveal.
Reveal Weekly, Saturday mornings at 10 on Radio St. George 100.3.
You may not know the name Alan Menken, but it's guaranteed you know his music. He is the Disney music legend behind Beauty and the Beast, Tangled, Newsies, Aladdin, and more. more. April 26th at Tuacahn, Alan Menken will share his Disney classics, along with beloved stories about those unforgettable tunes. Alan Menken, April 26th, tuacahn.org for more information.
Now it's time for another edition of Did You Know? Brought to you by Your Family Still Matters. Did you know that food storage recommendations say that you should have 1 gallon of water per person per day for drinking and cooking, and that storing water can be easy and inexpensive? Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Well, now you do. Did you know? Brought to you by Your Family Still Matters. With camping gear, violins, and water storage at 175 West, 900 South in St. George, right behind Pizza Hut on Bluff. It's Your Family Still Matters.
Maggleby's, a fine sponsor of the radio program at Dixie State University. Maggleby's Restaurant, wood and stone accented American eatery for steaks, sandwiches, homemade desserts, and patio dining. Maggleby's Restaurant at 1450 Hilton Drive in St. George. Maggleby's, a fine sponsor of Radio Dixie and Radio St. George.
It's time for you to get the Radio St. George app. It's available on iTunes or Google Play. You can stream audio and video, listen to podcasts, make a request, and so much more. Download the Radio St. George app today. We made it for you. The Radio St. George app on iTunes or Google Play.
Enjoy Ozark Highlands Radio, Saturday evenings at 9 on Radio St. George 100.3 FM.
We now return to The Garden Show with Artie and Woody.
Wow, this is sounding like a real radio program.
I know, it's scary.
This is exciting.
I'm afraid.
You're afraid? Why?
I'm afraid.
What? You're not. You
Well,
shouldn't be afraid.
I've got a microphone. I've got earphones.
We're radio professionals.
I look like a professional.
Oh, we're radio professionals. Fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing my whole radio career.
There you go.
That's
only been, what, 30 years?
Oh, I don't know about that. But
a lot.
So it's the Home and Garden Show with Woody and Artie. You can email us at any time. It's radiostgeorge@gmail.com. Radio St. George, that's Radio ST, so it's abbreviated. Radio St. George@gmail.com. Or you can call us or text us. It's 435-879-4100. 435-879-4100. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. Holy cow.
Hopefully we're on the radio.
Yep, hopefully we're on the radio. Now, before the break, we were talking about roots.
We were. And, but during the break, they had that little promo about things and they were talking about water, and it reminded me of an issue I wanted to bring up. And I was watching a gardening program of all things during the week, and they were talking about rainwater barrels, and that what they do, or what you can do to save water, is to buy a barrel that's has a special top, and you actually put your rain gutter into the barrel.
Huh.
And as it rains, which we've actually had some rain this last 2 or 3 months.
We have, yeah.
It fills the barrel. And then on the bottom of the barrel, there's a spigot to hook a hose on.
No kidding.
And you use it to water your plants.
Huh.
And I thought, if somebody's really serious about saving water, that would be a good thing to do. As near as I can tell, looking around, it'll cost somewhere between $50 and $100 for the barrel.
Oh, okay.
But they last forever, and
that's a good idea.
There's
water's really expensive here.
It is, and especially if you have maybe a patio with some containers and so on. I think it's a good thing to do. I just thought I'd mention it, that it's available in case somebody does. When you think about it, back in 1900, probably almost every home in America had a rain barrel.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, because
kidding.
that was, a great source of water, and especially in areas that didn't get a lot of rain. So anyway, for what it's worth, that's a reminder. Back to planting. So you take the plant out of the plastic container that comes in, and if the roots have grown around the outside of the plant, they're usually yellow in color, and it'll look like somebody's combed hair all the way around.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it looks almost like I think of somebody that does a comb over for a bald head.
Oh, I think we have a president.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
I don't know.
So
I should have gone there.
Yeah, I know.
I'm itching to talk about politics.
Don't do it. Don't
a home
do
and
it,
garden
Artie.
show and politics show.
Yeah. So take a screwdriver or a knife or like one of those hand rakes and kind of run it from the top to the bottom of that root ball and break some of those roots loose. Because if you put it in the soil the way it is, it'll continue to grow around like that, and it won't be a healthy plant. If you break them loose a little bit, you cause the roots to grow outward in direction, and it'll be a lot healthier plant, okay?
Right.
So, and that's one type of plant that we buy. We get it from the nursery and so on. The other kind that you can come across is a bare root transplant. At Walmart, in the front of their doors, they have blackberries and
I've seen that.
Different plants, and they're in a plastic bag. Mm-hmm. And if you open that bag up, it's got sawdust in there that's moist, but there's no dirt. It's a bare root.
Yeah,
they've actually pulled it out of the ground and so on, and those do pretty well if it's springtime. Mm-hmm. You know, if you wait till July down here to plant those, it'd be kind of risky because it's too hot.
Yeah.
Because the roots won't get established in time to support the plant.
So
they're good, but you just have to know what you're getting. They're usually less expensive. You can actually get trees that are bare root transfers, and you just have to be careful. And then you want to, for sure, when you dig the hole big enough that you can spread the roots out in the hole. You don't want to have to wrap them in the hole. That's one of my tricks. You don't want to use that. And you spread them out, and then you want to put topsoil in there, not fertilizer, maybe a little compost and some topsoil.
So topsoil with these root starters.
Well, the root starter you put on after you've pack the plant down and you're ready to water it.
Okay.
You don't put it in the hole.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
No. So, and then the third type of plant that you may come across is a type where it's bundled up in a burlap ball.
Oh, I've seen those.
Yeah. And so you want to be sure that you want to over excavate. You want to put the burlap ball in the hole, and then you want to cut it off. And as you do with burlap, the roots will tend to flop out because they've kind of gathered them up to put the burlap around. So that's why you want to have a hole that's bigger than the ball. Okay. So those are the things about planting plants that are existing. Now, when you put seeds in the ground, that's a different project. Seeds, as an example, most of the time the seeds I put in are for vegetables, and there are crops that you can direct plant. You don't have to start them in the house, and that would be your squash, your cucumbers, your lettuce, radishes, carrots, and so on. Some people tend to put seeds too deep. If you're putting your seeds down 2 inches, you're never going to get a plant. If you put more than a half inch of soil on those seeds, you're putting too much.
Really?
Yeah. The seed will sprout, it will germinate, and it'll come up through the soil, but it will also send the root down. So you want to loosen the soil and have it kind of worked over a little bit and loose, and then put your seeds on top, and then just cover with a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of soil. You want to just cover them enough that when you water, that it doesn't disturb the seed. All right?
Makes sense.
And like with squash seeds, they're really easy because they're big seeds. I have these big hands, and I have a hard time with carrot seeds are like pepper. They're so small. And, you water, that it doesn't. You think, well, I'm going to have a trench and then I'm going to put one seed every half inch. Not possible.
Not possible.
Not possible.
Well, how do you work around that then?
Well, there's two ways you can work around it. You can just sprinkle them in there, and then when they start to grow, you have to thin the plants out to where you only have one plant every half inch.
Okay.
Or most of the seed companies have what they call seed tape.
Oh.
And it has the seeds spaced onto a piece of white tape.
No kidding.
Yeah. And it's like tissue. It's not like vinyl tape. It's like tissue. And you roll it out. You put your little trench in there, and you roll it out 10 feet or whatever.
Cool.
And then you push the soil over the tape, and your radishes, your carrots, and everything are spaced correctly. And then you start to water it, and the tape will hold the seed in. The water won't dislodge it, and the tape is actually a fertilizer kind of thing.
Oh, no kidding. So it acts as a fertilizer, and it
it's a beautiful thing. They work really well.
That's a great idea.
And then when they come up, lo and behold, they're spaced every inch.
That's perfect.
And it looks like you're really a neat gardener, and it's because you use the seed tapes. And I'm trying to think of which the radishes I know have seed tapes. I'm thinking that I know carrots do, onions do, and they work really well. So, and if you can't find them locally, then you go online. I know Burpee has seed tapes for certain vegetables.
Okay.
And
how about flowers? Just vegetables, or
just vegetables?
Okay.
Yeah. And with flowers, depending on, some of the flowers have larger seeds, so you can, get your big fingers in there and get them spaced right. And some of them have very, very small seeds, and you're going to have to plant them and then weed out the ones that what's the term they use? I'm trying to think of the term. My mind's not working.
You mean space it out?
Yeah, well, you want to thin it. Yeah,
Okay.
if you have a big group of zinnias, for example, you don't want to group all together, then you've got to sit and pick out the ones and thin them out. But it's kind of hard because you plant them because you want them to come up, and then when they come up, you have to pull half of them out.
Oh.
But, it's just the way you have to do it. The next thing I'd like to cover, unless you have a question, is containers, planting in containers, which you're doing on your patio.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope I'm doing something right.
Yeah, containers work really well, and they work well down here because the big advantage to a container is you can move it. So if I want it to get some more sun, I move it out in the sun. If I want it to get less, I move it back in the shade. They have terracotta containers. They have ceramic containers. They have the big containers like botanicals. Nikki that was in here and talked to us about the big containers.
Sure.
They have plastic containers, and they're really a pretty good deal because they look like they're ceramic, but they don't weigh what is ceramic. If you get older, some of those pots are hard to lift.
Now, what's a little bit more inexpensive? Is it the plastic one or
the plastic is the least expensive, and let's face it, that's an issue for everybody, really. And most times the plastic have a drip tray in the bottom that's built into them. The one thing that you want to remember about containers is you have to water a container more often.
Oh, okay.
Because the sides of the container will heat up with the sun, and the water in the soil will evaporate quicker.
Oh.
So if you're watering your garden every other day, your container more than likely needs to be watered every day. Not flooded, but watered.
I would think that the plastic containers are affected more so than the ceramic.
They are. Than the ceramics. The ceramics are less that way. The terracotta is affected that way because the terracotta they're not glazed on the outside, and they actually breathe with the plant. The air passes through terracotta. So, but they can be containers can be really fun. And let's say that your name's Artie.
Yes,
and you don't have a place to plant tomatoes. You can plant tomatoes in a container.
Oh, okay.
In fact, they have a breed of tomatoes, patio tomatoes, and the difference is the stalks and the limbs are heavier. They're almost twice the size of a regular tomato, and so you can put them into a container, put them on your patio, and they'll the plant will hold itself up without having a lot of one of those tomato cages around it and so on, and it actually can be attractive.
Yeah,
full of red tomatoes and
sounds good.
And you can put peppers in containers. Not squash. Squash, if you put it in a container, will trail out and be 20 feet long out on your driveway. So a lot of we can't have the citrus trees down here. It's too cold in the winter. They'll die. But in areas where they can have them, a lot of folks plant those in large containers. And my house isn't really big enough for me to take a lot of stuff in this winter. But if you do have a sunroom or an area where you can take them in, where they stay warm, then you can put almost anything in containers. So
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now I have some of those hanging baskets, terracotta, that you're talking about. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully that's going to work out.
The hanging basket, and they have this brown furry stuff on the bottom. That's coconut fiber.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and it's made so that when you water the plant, the water will drain through it, but it'll retain some of the moisture.
Okay.
Around the roots of the plant.
Yeah.
So that's what that is coconut fiber.
I put a couple of plants underneath it.
So that when it drains, the water's the
exactly.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. That's wonderful.
No.
Yeah. Use water twice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
the next subject that I wanted to talk about are bulbs.
Okay.
And bulbs are really kind of neat. They're for a beginning gardener that maybe has a little bit of a learning curve to catch up with. Bulbs are really easy because you can just put them in and usually put bulbs deeper than you do seeds, or put them down 3 or 4 inches. And, I've got tulips and I've got daffodils and I've got some lilies that are all bulbs, and I've got some irises that are part of that family. And, you came and got some iris starch from me.
Yeah.
And you put them in, and bulbs are really good. They grow, and you can pick the color of the flower. The bulb in the stores, like the big box stores and that, they usually have a display of bulbs for sale. What I've been disappointed in is it's usually limited on what they have. They'll maybe have tulips, and they'll have just 3 or 4 different kinds of like gladiolas, and so on. And I would want to have a little more variety, and so you can go online and you can order bulbs anytime during the year.
For Burpee or
no, anybody. Yeah, any of those places.
Okay.
And they're not usually too expensive unless you get into the real exotic plants. Maybe you'll pay, $1 a piece for bulbs or even less, and have them shipped to you, and then you plant them either in the spring or the fall. If you plant them in the fall, they go over the winter, and then in the spring here they come, and they're very, very reliable. And a plant like that, as they grow each year, they add bulbs to the bottom of the root system.
Oh, they multiply.
They
really?
multiply.
Do they?
They're down there messing around, and they multiply. And so, like every 3 or 4 years, you've got to dig them up and separate them and put some back where they were, and then go put some in a different space, which is good because it's like putting money in the bank and getting a return on your money. Lilies will, I have a bunch of tiger lilies, and every year I have to pull some out and throw them away because they'll take over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And tulips aren't like that, and daffodils aren't like that. I've got daffodils I've had in for 5 or 6 years, and they're about the clumps like 12 or 14 inches across. But they're about to the point that I need to dig them up and split them. And when you do dig them up and split them, you take the ones that you're going to put somewhere else, well, all of them for that matter, you split them, and then you take your clippers and you cut the vegetation off of the top and maybe just leave an inch of vegetation on there and then put them back in the dirt. And it actually stimulates the roots. It's good for the plant to be split. And they're very reliable, very easy. So bulbs they're kind of neat.
And probably a little bit faster to grow bulbs.
Yeah. And you can buy actually they have a feed, a fertilizer that's made for bulbs. I've never had to use it because I just use the Miracle-Gro, and it does everything.
Works,
So, and on the bulb package, it'll tell you how deep to put them. Okay, so 3 to 6 inches, depending on the type it is.
Okay.
At least according to my book. And we like...
What book are you reading?
Oh, it's the Sunset Western Garden book.
Oh, okay.
It's the Bible.
Is it?
Yeah, it's really good. And let's see, how are we doing for time?
We have 4 minutes.
4 minutes. I probably am not going to go into this next section. It's about grasses and different kinds of turf. So we'll maybe wait till next week to do that. I will say that with turf, you can seed it. That's the cheapest way. You can buy sod. You can buy what they call plugs.
Now, what are plugs?
They're like when you have a bald head and you have hair put in, and they come in a little package, and they're little turfs of lawn.
That you could put on your head?
No.
That you could plug in?
Yeah.
On your head?
You plug them in the soil.
Oh, okay. Not
and
your
then
head.
and then they spread out and fill in, and that's another option to. They're less than the sod, but they're more than the seed. Okay, and we'll talk about it. But one of the most important things that you do when you plant or put sod down is how you prepare the soil underneath. As you're aware, if you plant lawn in clay, the water tends to run off and not soak in.
I have a little section that I've been, working with for the last couple of years. You're finding this little corner of my front lawn, and gosh, it's
whoever put your yard in, they put solid clay in.
Is that what they did? Because this little section
and
is dead.
They should have dug out about 6 inches of that and put soil in, and then had the clay about 6 inches deep, and they would have had a good lawn.
Well, I can't believe it's actually coming together.
I know it's starting to look
Yeah,
good.
because you're
Now,
because of
if
your
we
wonderful advice.
Now, if we could get you to mow it,
Yeah, that's true.
or I could come mow it. Or you know what? I get my wife to come mow it for you.
Please.
Artie. Yeah, because I know you're in there with the cats.
I hoard cats. Now let me ask you about something that we talked about off the air. As far as mowing is concerned, because I hoard things, I hoard cats and I hoard, just stuff, ordinary stuff.
Right.
So there's stuff everywhere, 6 feet high all over. I could barely, get through my house.
Right.
Because I'm a professional hoarder.
Yeah. Were you ever on that program they had?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Yep. A number of times.
Yeah.
So, I can't find my grass clipper or my grass catcher.
Yeah.
My clipping. What do you call it? Grass catcher.
Mulching. You want a mulch mower?
Yeah. No, it's the bag thing. I was kind of worried about my grass clippings
because you were afraid to leave them on the lawn.
Absolutely.
And I've had no grass catcher on my mower for 15 years, and my lawn looks great.
Really?
Yeah. And
so does the grass clippings help the lawn?
They do. They're organic material again, like compost is. And if the blade on your mower cuts them small enough, they'll break down and go into the soil. And a mulching mower will cut your grass into 1/4-inch pieces. And it will disperse and go into the soil, and you don't have to catch lawn anymore.
Interesting.
And the other thing is, if you
20
catch
seconds.
If you catch it, you have to put it in the garbage, and if it goes in the garbage, it stinks.
Well, I actually just throw all my grass clippings
over the fence
to
the other lady's house.
My lawn chair neighbor lady. So.
Yeah. Well, we don't. I'm afraid somebody's going to hear and tell her that
that we're talking about her.
Well, so she knows who's putting the grass over there.
Well, they're.
I think the bad thing is you put it in her pool.
Yeah, I think so. It's the Home and Garden Show with Woody and Artie on Radio St. George, 100.3 KXDI. Hey. That does it for our show for today. Now, if you want to drop us an email or a question for next week's show, please email us. It's radiostgeorge@gmail.com, radiostgeorge@gmail.com. You can also text us, 435-879-4100. Leave a comment on our Facebook page and
tell your neighbors and friends to tune in.
Absolutely.
Because we want to be on Good Morning America. We're not going to make it unless we get some more listeners.
All right. We'll be back next week on Radio St. George 100.3. See you later, Woody.
See you, man.
You've been listening to The Garden Show. For audio